Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Andrews, past president of the Rotary Club of Oshawa-Parkwood. On behalf of the Oshawa media, our Rotary Club, the Oshawa Golf Club, welcome to the beautiful Oshawa Golf Club in the heart of the city. And welcome to Canada Votes 2015, the Oshawa Media Debate for the Federal Riding of Oshawa. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the candidates, the media, and to you in attendance tonight, and to you at home as well, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. Please, if you wish, could you turn off your cell phones, and we respect that we have no flash photography either. Thank you so much. A very special thank you goes to our Rotarian, Sandra McDowell, also of Oshawa Express. She's organized the entire debate tonight. I'd also like to thank Daniel Beauregard and Holly Stoven here at the Oshawa Golf Club for their kind hospitality. And thank you to Rogers Cable 10 here in Oshawa for taping the debate for you viewers at home. Rotary brings together a global network of volunteer leaders who dedicate their time and talents to tackle the world's most pressing humanitarian challenges. Rotary connects 1.2 million members in over 200 countries and geographical regions, and our work impacts the lives locally and internationally too. Whether it be to the young school children of Durham region who learn about safety at the Kids Safety Village, just one of our many local community service projects, or to the children of the world who, thanks to Rotary, are being inoculated with polio vaccine so that every single case of polio is eradicated from the face of the earth. And speaking of polio, there is a jar on the table just outside, and we would be very happy if you would make a donation. Through our matching grants programs, $1 from you will be 5 times that when it gets to the people who need it and get that polio eradicated. Well, Rotary creates positive, lasting change in our communities and all over the world. In short, we provide opportunity, and that's what we're doing here tonight. As a service to the community here in Oshawa, we're also providing opportunity to the members of the Oshawa media who will be posing the questions, and to the candidates who will be answering those questions and debating the issues of the day, and to you, the audience here at home and here at the golf club, to help you make the best possible decision when you vote on October 19. And be sure to stay with us after the debate. The candidates have agreed to stay and meet and greet with you, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. It gives me great pleasure right now to introduce the moderator for the debate, and he needs very little introduction. He's the morning man of radio station CKDO. He's also the voice of the 5-time Memorial Cup Oshawa Generals. Please welcome Terry Johnson. Terry, come on up.
All right, he's taking a dig because apparently at the game last night with Bobby Orr in attendance, I might have said 4-time Memorial Cup champion Oshawa Generals, and apparently everybody heard it. If only you people would listen as closely to my morning show, we'd actually have ratings, which is fantastic. 4-time. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It's been a while since I've moderated a debate like this. Some of you weren't even born. It was when it was a mayor's debate way back, and it's a long, long time. The order of operations is, and I'm going to try to keep this in some sort of a semblance. If you've seen me emceeing or auctioning off events or doing golf tournaments, and I lose my track but these guys have agreed to keep me on, and they'll say, here's what's next, and I'm next, and they're going to put up their hands, and they will get into fisticuffs. I'll introduce the panelists and our candidates, and then I'll give you the full order of operations on how everything is going to go. First off, I think radio is the center of all the universe, especially in Oshawa. Our panelist, first off, she's my co-host on CKDO Radio, Samantha Rankin. Representing the Oshawa Express, Graham McNaughton. And Oshawa this week, Rika Zakelli. We sometimes get a lot of our information from the newspaper, and then we talk about it on the radio and scoop them. We also have my assistant is the managing editor of all the Metroland papers, every single one of them. All right. He's my long-lost uncle, Mike Johnson, and he's going to be in charge of the red cards, the green cards, and the bell. And now our candidates, in no particular order of operation, but we did draw names earlier and who will go first in their opening statements. Let me introduce to you, representing the Green Party, Michael Dempsey. Representing the NDP, Mary Fowler. Representing the Conservative Party, incumbent Colin Carrie. And one of the best dressed guys representing the Liberal Party, Tito-Dante Marimpietri. So right at the beginning, each candidate will have 2 minutes for our opening statements, and then questions will be asked by our panel of journalists, and they will answer in sequence as their opening statements, and then the next question will go to the next person in sequence, and then so on until we totally get absolutely confused. Once the candidate has each have had 1 minute to answer each question, the floor will be open for all candidates for a total of 2 minutes to debate the question, and then I will interrupt during this process only if I believe there's a need to give each candidate an equal opportunity to express their views if necessary. Does anybody have any questions? Very good. Then thank you very much. Wonderful. All righty. Are we ready? As I said, we drew names as to who would go first. So opening statement from the Green Party, Michael Dempsey.
Thank you very much. So my name is Michael Dempsey. I'm the Green Party representative for Oshawa. When I first got involved in politics, I decided that I needed to know exactly what I was doing. So I started researching the different parties and the different policies that those parties had. And I kind of finally came to the conclusion that the Green Party had the most forward-thinking policies, the ones that reached or considered most furthest into the future. They like to try and create their policies that take into consideration 7 generations, kind of similar to some of the Aboriginal thought processes and decision-making that we have in this country. So I got involved with the Green Party, and I've been involved for the last 10 years, and now I have a 2-year-old son who obviously has a long future ahead of him. So the Green Party platform, to me, is that the platform that would create the kind of future that I would like to see him grow up in. And so that's why I'm finally standing for election this time around, and probably won't be the last time you'll see me.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, from the New Democratic Party, Mary Fowler.
So first of all, I just want to thank the Rotary Club and the Golf and Curling Club for hosting the event tonight. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming here tonight. My father is a 2-time past president of the Rotary Club of Port Perry, so I know how much of your time is taken up with volunteerism and commitment to your community. So thank you for taking the time to come and be part of this process with us. So as I was introduced, my name is Mary Fowler. I'm the candidate for the New Democratic Party. And this is my first time running for public office. I chose to run this time round because, like many people I've spoken to at the door, I am ready for change in our community and across the country as well. I'm a French immersion educator here in Durham region, and over the last 10 years, I've seen the income inequality in our classrooms growing wider. We've seen good-paying jobs leave our community. They've been replaced with part-time and precarious work. And most alarmingly, we've seen our youth unemployment rate rising to nearly 20%, which is double the national average. But it doesn't need to be this way. The NDP has a plan to ensure that we can provide services to the people of our communities, that young people can live and work and stay in Oshawa, and that we can help seniors have access to services that they need. We have presented a balanced plan that has actually received credit from economists across the country. It's balanced and it's prudent. We do not need to choose between fiscal responsibility and providing the services to people who need them. That is a false choice. In the last federal election here in Oshawa, the NDP got 37% of the vote. We know that with just a handful more votes, we can make positive change happen here for our vibrant and diverse city. So I'm asking for your vote on the 19th of October. And again, I'm thanking you for coming today. I'm looking forward to the questions and to meeting you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Representing the Conservative Party of Canada, Colin Carrie.
Thank you very much, Terry. And I wanted to take this opportunity as well to thank the organizers with the Rotarians and the Golf Club. It's always a pleasure for me to come here, and I really enjoy our regular meetings with the Rotarians and talk about what's happening in Ottawa. It's a lot of fun for me, and to see the interest in our community about what's really happening at the national level. I really commend you. And I commend your work locally with the Rib Fest, but I've also had the chance to work with you at the national level with the work that you do with the polio and the international work, and I really commend the work that you do. We need more people that are dedicated like Rotarians. As you know, I'm a proud Conservative, and I'm really proud of the record that we have. We've consistently lowered taxes, not only for businesses but individuals. We lowered taxes over 140 times. And what that's given us here in Canada, it's given us a record economic growth. As you compare us to the rest of our partners in the G7, we actually have the best economic growth. We've created 1.3 million net new jobs. And one of the things we promised in this election, which is really important for the future moving forward, we promised to create another 1.3 million net new jobs by 2020. This we've been able to do and return to balanced budget. I know each and every one of you, business people, people who live on their own with their families, you know that budgets don't balance themselves. It's really important that as we move forward into our future, that we have fiscal responsibility and balance so that we can balance the economic future and growth for our kids moving forward. And with our families, we've really focused as Conservatives on making sure that we have safer communities. We focus on we have our mandatory minimums. We have things moving forward for to make sure it's safe for our kids. And I'm very proud to be the MP that has brought record investments to this community. When I was first elected in 2004, people said we'd be the next Flint, Michigan, and boy, look around, were they ever wrong.
Thank you, Colin. And just before I introduce Tito, it's a microphone thing, Colin. We need that a little bit closer to you. We spent all the money on our polio donation. We didn't spend it on microphone stands, just a little bit. There we go. Representing the Liberal Party, Tito-Dante Marimpietri.
Thank you, Terry, and thank everyone for coming this evening, especially the organizers. I've had the pleasure of being able to work with Rotary through my brother and his family, who have made significant contributions over time, and myself also, in any way possible with other Rotarians in the community. I've, as a councillor, always looked up to the Rotary organization, not just here but across the world. I believe that our community is built with the principles that the Rotarians have guiding them. And being from the city of Oshawa, born and raised, with a family of my own here, and having represented you on council in numerous official capacities, I find it humbling to be here as a representative for federal office as the Liberal Party candidate for a few reasons. The first, obviously, is because I'm from here. And selfishly, any of the issues that we dealt with this evening and any of the impacts that we have as a result of those issues are felt by my family and I, just as they're felt by you. And there's also the overlying reason that we're all here, and that's to make Canada better. We need to restore Oshawa's place in the national economy, and we need to restore Canada on the global stage. And the only way to do this, ladies and gentlemen, because I know we've already opened our discussion points with, who's better and who's not. It isn't a two-horse race here in Oshawa. It's not 2011. It's not 2006. I'm very proud to be here on behalf of a leader named Justin Trudeau, who's fighting for Canadians in the middle class. Families like mine, families like yours, families like the ones in Oshawa. Oshawa is synonymous with the middle class, and we have a plan to strengthen Canada from Oshawa and throughout. And I urge you on October 19th to vote for the plan that works for the middle class and essentially put Canada back on the map globally and Oshawa back on the map economically.
Thank you, Tito. Okay, questions from the panel, and again, they will get 1 minute to answer and continue on. First question goes to Samantha Rankin from Durham. Oh, Rika first. Wonderful. Rika Zakelli from Oshawa this week.
Thank you very much. Since 2006, General Motors has dropped from 10,000 planned jobs in Oshawa down to 2,500 when the last Camaro rolls off the line in November. With no new product announced and the future of GM uncertain in Oshawa, when you wake up the day after the election, what can you say to the company to keep them operating in this community?
To Mike.
Well, my father actually worked at GM until his death in 1989, and I know a lot of people that have worked there in the past that have been laid off. There's not too many people in Oshawa that currently find employment with GM. The day after the election, what could I say to the company to get them to stay? Well, I'm gonna have to say it. My personal opinion is I don't think that there's anything that people haven't already suggested to them. They kind of brought about their own demise by going the way of the the gas guzzling vehicle when they had the choice of bringing in more fuel efficient vehicles decades ago. I mean, they brought in EV1 many years ago, and they scrapped that program. In terms of GM staying in Oshawa, if we bring in the TPP, we won't see any pretty much automobile manufacturing in Canada. So I think the first thing would be to do the day after the election, whoever's, it's a short time. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Mary Fowler.
Well, the first thing that I would say is let's sit down and have a conversation. The NDP has put forward a proposal to, within the first 100 days of forming government, having a meeting with auto manufacturers, with labor, with different levels of government, provincial, municipal, and federal, and creating a national auto strategy. This is something that auto manufacturers across the country have been calling for many years. Many other countries already have them, the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, Japan. They have a national auto strategy, which is why their auto manufacturers are actually not struggling. Michael referenced the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and I would agree that if it goes forward as has been proposed, we will see the demise of GM here in Oshawa, which is why the NDP has said that we will not pass the TPP on the backs of the workers here. We have a plan to invest in research and development in auto manufacturing and manufacturing across the board, and to reward those companies that are being innovative so that we can find our niche in auto manufacturing once again.
Thank you, Mary. Dr. Carrie.
First of all, I think you have to ask the auto manufacturers why they've left, and you'll get consistently the same answer. One, they'll cite the high cost of labor. The other thing they'll cite is the high cost of energy. In Ontario, we have the highest industrial rates of electricity in North America, and that's a huge challenge for any manufacturers. So one of the things that we will be continuing to do is to sit down with the auto manufacturers. We do have an auto strategy. We've had one since 2008. We've invested in the Automotive Innovation Fund, $500 million, and that's available for new investment, an investment to modernize the plants. And when auto manufacturers come to us, we've consistently utilized that fund to make those investments. What we're not going to do, though, is we're not going to increase their taxes like the NDP would like to increase their corporate tax rates, which they say will decrease jobs in Canada, 150,000 jobs, and increase the payroll taxes, the Canadian Canada Pension Plan. These two things alone will kill 250,000 jobs. We have to maintain our competitiveness in the automotive manufacturer, and we're committed to that.
Thank you, Colin. Next up, Tito-Dante.
Dealing with the issue as a councillor, I understand also from a different level what we need to do in order to ensure that we work well with General Motors in the industry. Not just General Motors, because there's a huge spin-off that the auto industry describes as anywhere from 7 to 10 for a job at General Motors. So if we're talking about the 10,000 jobs lost over the last decade under Prime Minister Harper, we have an issue where we've lost hundreds of thousands of jobs in our local economy. So the first thing is recognizing that there's an effect to other industries, and from that, recognizing that there's an effect to service industries. And that's essentially, a lot of the folks here this evening and watching at home may have small businesses. This affects them as well. It affects each and every single Oshawa resident. But working with organizations and entities like the university to promote innovation, and not just in the form of policy, but putting our budget to work. And our budget's very realistic. The Liberal budget offers billions of dollars for innovation, and that's how we're going to get General Motors working with the knowledge-based industry to grow our economy.
Thank you very much. Now we can open the floor up to debate. 2 minutes. Mary, go ahead.
So Stephen Harper has said that under this new Trans-Pacific Partnership that auto manufacturers will not be happy. Those are his words. Auto manufacturers will not be happy. So I'm not sure what that means for auto manufacturing here in our community. But as Tito said, it's not just the jobs at GM that we've lost. We've lost almost 18,000 jobs in Oshawa in manufacturing under the last 10 years. And even Justin Trudeau has said that Oshawa and Southern Ontario needs to move away from manufacturing. So frankly, I don't think that either of the other two parties has any intention of investing or keeping GM and auto manufacturing here in our community.
That's hogwash. Actually, our government has consistently invested in General Motors. If you remember, it was our government that spent $9.5 billion bailing out the automotive companies and working with our provincial partners in order to shore up pensions for our community. What's ridiculous, though, is the NDP policy on rejecting the TPP without even reading it. This is something that's going to open up 800 million new customers for our manufacturers right here in this community. Auto manufacturers have been asking us for years to open up new markets for them. We've been successful, whereas the former Liberal government only had 3 free trade agreements. We now have 51 free trade agreements, and this new one with the TPP is going to open up a brand new market for us so that we can actually sell our cars into markets that have tariffs, some of them as high as 38%, 74% in Vietnam.
Thank you,
so
Colin. Can I go right into Tito-Dante?
Yeah, and it's nice to talk about the 51, free trade agreements, but we have 18% youth unemployment, and yes, 11% adult unemployment here in Oshawa. Because, I mean, we keep hearing numbers, and we can argue the numbers all we want, but the fact of the matter is, middle-class Canadians aren't working, and that's something that's very concerning, because we have folks that I speak to at the doors each and every single day that either tell me about their grandkids that went to school that can't get a job here, or they tell me how much that they've been supporting, their families and their grandchildren. And I think it's time that we get back to the discussion points of putting people to work.
Thank you, Tito. And Mr. Dempsey wanted a response?
So Colin just mentioned the fact that they spent $9 billion bailing out the auto industry, and then they sold the rest of their shares at a huge loss so they could pretend to balance their budget. I don't see how giving away any decision-making power within a company to potentially hold jobs within Canada is a smart move. Considering they haven't announced any new product lines. And in terms of the investor state provisions in a lot of these free trade agreements that they're signing, they're selling away our sovereignty to all these foreign countries, like FIPA with the Chinese free trade agreement. They're selling away our ability to actually change our own laws and make decisions for ourselves without fear of being sued. So
thank you, Michael. All right, in the interest of time, I know you want to keep going on with this, but we're going to go right into the next question. Am I right on this, Mike? You're going to keep... Okay, perfect. Graham gets to go first. This is pretty good, Graham. She's letting you talk first. It never happens with me on the air. Graham McNaughton from the Oshawa Express.
Well, there's a first time for everything. All right, so according to Statistics Canada, the unemployment rate in Oshawa has gone up by 1.6% in the 2 years between August 2013 and August 2015. While the number nationally has gone down by 0.3%. This number represents 3,000 more people out of work in August 2015 than there was in August 2013. What can be done here at home to get more people back to work?
First question goes to Mary.
Well, as I said, the NDP has a very strong plan for creating auto manufacturing and investing in auto manufacturing here, but we know that that's obviously not the only sector in Oshawa that is struggling, which is why we also have a plan to lower the small business tax rate down from 11%, or from 11% rather, down to 9%, immediately to 10% as soon as we form government, and then down to 9% within a year of our first mandate. Within a year of forming government. But we also know that we need to help create jobs through investment in infrastructure. The NDP is dedicated to putting $1.3 billion into infrastructure spending, and that will go directly to municipalities, because we know at this point there's a lot of red tape when it comes to getting federal money for infrastructure spending, and that there are mayors across the country that are very frustrated with this federal government, and that's something that the NDP would try to eliminate so that we can create those good, paying, stable, consistent jobs in our community.
Next up, Dr. Carrie.
Much. And one thing I do want to correct the record, because the Liberal candidate said the unemployment rate is 11 or something like that. From StatsCan, it's 8.1, and when the Liberals were in, it was 9.2. But to answer the question, we really have to work on connecting. Excuse me, Tito, I didn't interrupt you. If this is the behavior you're going to be having at this debate, I think the audience will not be accepting of that. What we've really focused on is connecting youth to the actual job market. There's been a huge disconnect within the educational system. In other words, we're educating kids with degrees and skills that aren't equal to what the job market is. So what our government has done is made huge investments not only in education directly, but with apprenticeship programs and different skills and different trades. One of the things that's really important too is we don't tax jobs. One of the biggest job killers is actually the payroll taxes. And the NDP want to increase payroll taxes to a point where the average Canadian who's making $60,000, they want to take more money out of their pocket and more money out of the businesses' pocket so that they can't create these new jobs. These are things that are some of the biggest killers for unemployment, and we cannot be continuing to tax jobs if we want to create more of them.
Thank you, Mr. Carrie. Next up, Tito-Dante.
Just to follow up on that comment, I think when you consider the numbers that Mr. Carrie was indicating, he's talking about CMA numbers that group in Oshawa and Clarington with the surrounding area. Census metropolitan numbers, 11% is for Oshawa. My hometown has an 11% unemployment rate, and it's unacceptable. 18% unemployment rate for youth, and that's unacceptable. So maybe in your hometown it's different, but in my hometown, those numbers are unacceptable. And what we want to do as a party is implement a realistic budget that we have discussed openly. Today you heard a plan that was announced by Mr. Trudeau. It's a strong plan to bring back the middle class and essentially put us back to work as Canadians, starting from places like Oshawa, working with communities, community groups and entities like UOIT, Durham College, Trent University, and Queen's to grow our knowledge-based economy. Because the reality is, we need to work with knowledge-based industry to supplement traditional industry. Traditional industry being manufacturing and knowledge-based being our university and knowledge-based sector so that we can grow our economy.
Thank you, Tito. This is fun, actually. It's hard to just, they want to talk and they're very passionate about it, but it's my job to stop them. And next question, we got it. Oh, debate. Did I get that part? Michael, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Does anybody have a Kleenex?
Which one?
Could you get Tito a Kleenex? Yeah. So, jobs in Oshawa. Sorry, distracted there. So there's already been a few good points made in terms of reinvesting in Oshawa and getting actual jobs and things like that. One of the Green Party concepts of the Green Party is relocalization in municipalities. So it would be to rebuild local municipalities by putting a focus on incentivizing businesses to actually start up where people live and play, so that they can work, live, and play in the same area. We also have a program for youth that we would like to bring in that would create 40,000 jobs a year for 4 years that would have youth involved in their local communities and community involvement and environmental initiatives, similar to what the NDP have. And I'll end it there because I'm out of time.
All right. And debate time? Anybody else? Mary, go ahead.
Well, the Conservative candidate is referring to a, quote, payroll tax, which in fact is actually an expansion of the Canada Pension Plan. Part of the reason why we have so many young people who are unemployed right now is that we have so many more seniors who are having to continue to work after their retirement. So either that's part-time jobs because they're concerned about the rising cost of hydro, or because their prescription medication is so high. We know that honestly, it's probably one of the most surprising things that I have found in knocking on doors is the number of seniors who tell me that they are concerned about having to leave their home and having to continue to work 1 and 2 part-time jobs. If we actually had a Canada Pension program that provided seniors with ample money so that they could retire, because we know there are so few people these days that actually have a workplace pension. So if we had a Canada Pension plan that actually supported our seniors, we would not be taking a lot of these part-time jobs away from the young people who need them so that they can then pay to go to school and that they can then graduate from school without $26,000 in debt.
Thanks, Mary. Dr. Carrie. We need your microphone a little bit closer. Those in the back.
Yep. Thank you very much. This is not me talking. This is the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. What they're basing it on is Kathleen Wynne's ORP. And to put that across the country, they're saying it'll kill 105 jobs nationally. This is an increase in payroll taxes because businesses, when they don't have money for raises and they don't have money for new employees. Those of you in business realize this. The NDP would, again, put up employment insurance rates. We're going to be lowering those 20%. The NDP want to keep it 20% higher. And on top of that, they want to implement a job-killing carbon tax, which we all know if you put an increased cost on heating, electricity, and fuel, that raises the cost of business, particularly in the manufacturing sector. When we're competing internationally with other jurisdictions like Michigan, this is a way to kill jobs. We got to create jobs, not kill them.
Mr. Marimpietri.
Yeah, I want to get back to the crux of the question. We've gone up 1.6% in unemployment here, while the national unemployment level hasn't. So we're sitting here as Oshawa candidates, and clearly there's an issue here in Oshawa with respect to unemployment. Our party is not looking to, in 8 years, or not having talked about it for 10, we want to implement a budget that has a $21 billion note to invest in local economies, to grow things like social infrastructure, to get people back to work in the middle class, affordable housing, investment in universities and colleges, programs that'll get people retrained and back to work. Realistically, we need the help now in Oshawa. It may be different in other communities, but in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, my hometown, and I know this as a councillor, I know this as a resident, as a taxpayer, as a father, and a husband, I think it's important also when you consider the effects to small businesses that we get to work now, and our budget is realistic in that we have the ability to do so now.
Thank you, Tito. All right, we're going to go to our next question. Now, Samantha Rankin from Durham Radio, CKDO.
Thank you, Terry. I know we touched on it, but the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal was announced today with provisions that would allow finished vehicles into the Canadian market with more than 55% being made outside of a member nation. Would your government support this deal when it comes to Parliament for approval?
And the question goes to Colin first.
Absolutely. When you're talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this is a framework for all trade deals going forward. Canada is already integrated, if you look at the auto industry, for example, within our NAFTA partners. And to have two of our partners, the United States and Mexico, signing on to this deal and Canada not signing on to the deal, what it would cause is a great disincentive for future investment. This agreement has the best automotive protection than any free trade agreement ever signed. It has better protection than the Korean Free Trade Agreement, which, by the way, the NDP actually did support. It was one of the few free trade agreements that the NDP actually supported. With this free trade agreement, it's going to open up. Canada is going to be the only country in the world to have access to the Asia Pacific and the European and the United States. It will position us as a hub in the world as far as investment. It'll open up new markets for us, 800 million new customers.
Thank you, Colin.
It would be ridiculous for anybody not to be supportive of this agreement.
Tito.
Like any other agreement that we've ever dealt with in government, it needs to be transparent. And I think that's probably the biggest question that we have as residents and as Canadians. I think we need to make sure that the agreement is actually discussed. I mean, I remember watching an entire federal campaign discussing free trade. Now we've got an agreement that's supposedly this crucial and that nobody knows anything about. That's a concern. And I think the biggest concern that I have also is that the NDP is proposing a corporate tax, that when you take a look at what that means to local businesses and businesses at larger scales especially, and we want to talk about, job killing, we have that concern. And it's a very significant concern because it's a trickle-down effect that hurts everyone in our community. If someone's going to buy a product at say, Home Depot or Millwork, they're going to be affected by that because that large employer is going to be trickling that tax effect down. And it's not proven that, that the reduction in corporate taxes is going to create jobs. And I think it's important that we're cognizant that Oshawa needs jobs. We can't kill them by raising taxes.
Thank you, Tito. Mr. Dempsey.
So as I've already mentioned before, I personally and my party does not support the TPP or any other free trade agreement that has an investor state provision that allows a foreign country well, every other country is foreign, but allows another country to be able to, or other countries' corporations to be able to sue us based on whether or not we change a law that betters our health legislation, or creates a better environmental regulation so that we can stop poisoning certain areas. Like, there's certain things that are in these free trade agreements that allow us, our government, to be directly responsible to pay foreign international companies for things that we decide to do in our own country, and that's a dangerous thing. We've given away part of our sovereignty to these entities, and we're looking at doing more of them. We need to look at and focus more on fair trade and about smart trade, and trying to, like, if we're going to be able to sell our cars to more countries, are they going to want our cars? Because are we producing the green technology and green kind of cars that the rest of the world is moving towards?
Thank you, Mike. Mary Fowler.
The NDP frustration with this free trade agreement is that it's been done behind closed doors in absolute secrecy. Other governments have actually been having conversations with their stakeholders in their own countries about their concerns for individual sectors. That has not been happening here in any shape. The Conservative government is continuing to, or has continued to, negotiate this free trade agreement, but they have no mandate to do that currently. They are not government. They are not government right now. Other signatories to the agreement, New Zealand, for example, have even said that they are surprised that Stephen Harper is allowing the negotiations to continue. They do not have a mandate at this point to be negotiating this agreement. As was mentioned, it is not favorable to auto manufacturing here in Oshawa or in Canada, and we know that that is going to significantly impact the jobs here in our community. No, the NDP will not be supporting this, and I think that it's something that any government who does support the outsourcing of our jobs and other sectors as well should be giving themselves a shake.
All right. Some applause. Dr. Carrie.
Who needs to be given a shake is the NDP leader. He said in advance he didn't even read the agreement, and he said he wasn't going to be supportive of it. The reality is Ford, Chrysler, and GM, they're American companies. 85% of our cars that are built in Canada are exported. What they've been asking for are markets to sell into and get rid of the tariffs and the non-tariff barriers that other countries use to keep our product out. That's what it's all about. We want to be able to encourage Canadian companies to be global leaders. We are a very small country. We're 35 million people. We have to get out there in the world and not be afraid. We have some of the best manufacturers, the best companies in the world, but we don't have access to these current markets. So what our government has done, number one, when she talks about secrecy, this has been the most open free trade agreement. We've had tons of meetings with different stakeholders. In the actual room, of course, it is closed. That's how these deals are done. Everybody keeps their cards close to their chest. But at the end of the day, this agreement has to be ratified by Parliament, and it would have been irresponsible for us not to be at the table at this time, because if we lost this opportunity, there will not be another opportunity for 3 or 4 years, and Canada, by being one of the signatories, the original signatories, we get veto powers and future options to barter with other countries that are coming in.
Tito?
I think we have to be realistic when it comes to agreements. A new government is likely going to be formed. I don't think anyone is alluding to any sort of surprise as to what the polls are showing. Canadians want real change, and they want it now. So when the new government is formed, there's going to be a close look taken at this deal, because it has been constructed and negotiated essentially away from Canadians. And I'll go back to the fact that free trade was an entire federal campaign, and we've got a situation here where a lot of Canadians don't know exactly what TPP will mean, but I think essentially when we look at what it means for Oshawa, we need to put people back to work, and we can't, put corporate taxes on our corporations and kill jobs.
Thank you. Thank you all. Rika, are we ready for another one? Here we go.
Ontario is currently working on the Ontario Pension Plan. The Premier has said the move is necessary because the Canadian pension plan is simply not enough. Do you think CPP should be expanded, or should Ontario continue to set up the supplementary plan?
And we start with Tito-Dante.
Yeah, I think that's an easy answer. I've been to the doors to speak to thousands of Oshawa residents, and they don't believe CPP is adequate for their quality of life and what they've put into the local economy and also and what they've offered Canadians. So seniors should have the benefit and right to a dignified retirement, and one that is akin to the quality of life that Canadians would expect, and that one that they've built for us as Canadians, especially here in Oshawa. CPP should be expanded, and I think when you consider the fact that our Prime Minister has failed to meet with provincial premiers on a regular basis across the country over the last 10 years, you have not just Ontario, but other provinces looking at different methods to be able to provide seniors with a dignified and respectful pension. I think it's time that we expand it, and I think it's time that we bring the pension system into light so that seniors are afforded that quality of life that they've earned and that they've built for this country.
Thank you. Mike?
So, to get away a little bit from the whole pension concept, one of the Green Party actually had just announced a couple months ago the concept of bringing forward a guaranteed livable income for seniors. And what that does is it kind of sidesteps the whole argument that it's job killing, payroll taxes, and just through kind of shuffling around revenue, where it's coming from and where it's going, like eliminating perverse subsidies to the most profitable companies. You can, relocate some funds to things like a guaranteed livable income for seniors, which allows seniors to be able to live the rest of their years in a more dignified fashion without worrying about the job-killing CPP or ORP, RP, whatever, all these acronyms. So realistically, I support everybody living in retirement comfortably, but in a way that makes more sense than burdening businesses and people with deductions.
Thank you, Michael. Mary Fowler.
Premiers across the country have called for an expansion of the Canada Pension Plan. They've been calling for an expansion of the Canada Pension Plan. As I alluded to before, there are so many more seniors that are working part-time jobs now than ever before because they are having such a hard time making ends meet. This government refused to expand the Canada Pension Plan. So as a result, the Ontario government moved forward with the ORPP. When they went to this federal government and said, there's going to be $1 billion price tag when it comes to implementing the ORPP, we would like to work in collaboration with you so that we can alleviate some of those costs that will then obviously be passed down to employers. We'd like to alleviate that. This government, again, said no. They are unwilling to recognize the fact that, one, they need to actually work in partnership with governments of different levels, and that there are so many seniors who are struggling right now to make ends meet. An NDP government will expand the Canada Pension Plan. We will also increase the guaranteed income supplement that we know so many seniors rely on as well.
Thank you, Mary. Dr. Carrie.
That our government actually did across the country consultations on pensions, and in order to change it, you do have to have 2/3 of the provinces representing 2/3 of the population, and at that time there was no agreement on how to move forward. So what we did do, we expanded something and created something called the pooled pension plan, which gives people options. We increased the tax-free savings account, again, allowing people flexibility. What they found with the ORP, the Ontario Pension Plan, and this is not me, the CFIB says that it will kill 42,000 jobs in Ontario, 105,000 jobs nationally if the NDP and the Liberals implement this. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce had a letter signed to Kathleen Wynne, that signed by Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, and they all said this will make us less competitive. When we're competing with jurisdictions like Michigan that have competitive electricity rates, and then you throw in more payroll taxes, then you throw in a carbon tax, it makes us less competitive. And if it's talking about jobs, we have to do pension reform in a sensible way to give people options, not making us less competitive against the jurisdictions we compete against.
Thank you, Colin. We'll open up for debate, and Tito was shaking his head right away.
Well, let's talk about what the Harper decades meant to seniors. You can no longer retire at 65. It's 67. That's going to change under the Liberal government, where we peel it back to 65. It also means that when we had an ability to be able to discuss 10 years, folks, we're not talking about the last few months, 10 years to be able to discuss the future of seniors, the people who have built this country, the Harper government hasn't been able to, come to the table with any sort of agreement as to how to expand CPP. Another aspect of it is that we you know, when you consider the social needs in our community, affordable housing, home care, these sort of programs have not been funded the way that they should when you consider the aging population and the need, not only for them, but also for middle-class families and all generations. If you're not going to put money into those programs, into that infrastructure need, into those services, then you're not on the side of seniors and you're not on the side of middle-class families and not on the side of people of Oshawa.
Dr. Carrie would like to respond?
Well, basically, I have to correct the record. What he said, you can't retire at 65 anymore. What this was, it was changing the OAS. This is the non-contributory part of pensions. Because of the demographic shifts, it's not unique to Canada. Other countries around the world have already done this, and it's to make sure that we maintain the program for future generations. And this is not going to be something that's going to be fully implemented till 2029. And if you're looking at what Canada is right now, Canada is within the top 5 places in the world for seniors to retire. Yes, we need to do more. That's why in this election campaign, we've talked about improving it even better for seniors. Under our taxes, we've actually lowered to take over 80,000 seniors off the tax roll, and we put in a new tax credit for single seniors. This is something that's going to allow us to continue being in the top 5 in the world.
Mary, I'll give you 15 seconds to respond.
15 seconds.
15 seconds on your American sector.
So many things to say. It's true that it's not going to be implemented, the lowering of the age to down to, or raising to 65 until 2029, which means that the majority of the people in this room won't be impacted. But there are so many seniors that rely on OAS and GIS. Removing those 2 years essentially equates into taking $13,000 out of the pockets of those people. The Liberal candidate spoke about if you're not actually investing in health care, that you're not investing in seniors, and we would agree, which is why my question would be why in their platform today are there $2 billion in cuts coming from health care?
Thank you, Mary. All right, we've got time for one more question before we get to closing remarks, and I'm sure Graham and Samantha did rock, paper, scissors as to who will get to ask the next question. Graham, go ahead.
I guess I won this one.
And what we're going to do is each will get a chance to respond, but I think we're out of time for the full debate afterwards. So you'll get the 1 minute to respond, and then we'll have time for closing statements.
So transportation, whether it be through mass transit or driving or by any other means, has become a big issue not only in Oshawa, but throughout the rest of the Durham region and across the GTA. How will you improve transportation issues for residents?
And we'll start with Mr. Dempsey.
Testing. Yeah. So the Green Party has always been very favorable towards public transportation in terms of trains, buses, that kind of thing. So there would be a rather large investment into public transportation. Not only does it reduce the carbon impact of our daily lives, but it also reduces the road rage and hair pulling that we see on a daily basis on the 401 heading into Toronto and away from Toronto come 3, 4 o'clock. So one of the things, though, I mentioned earlier today was refocusing on the local so you can live, work, and play at home. And that's something that I think we've really lost. I mean, not only have we lost kind of a general community sense in a lot of places, but we've really lost that community, the overall community aspect of being able to stay within our community for the majority of our day instead of having to drive hours away to a different community to work and spend hours driving back to our community just to be tired, have a little food, go to sleep, and then leave again.
Ms. Fowler, transportation.
Transportation is actually the thing that probably comes up at the door the most, and whether that's seniors who are trying to get to their appointments and so are frustrated with the unaffordability of our transit system, or it's students who are trying to get to work. Honestly, it's probably the thing that I think reaches across the spectrum the most. The NDP has a concrete plan for investing in a 20-year better transit plan. We do not think that transit is something that's going to be fixed in a 4-year mandate. We know that there's been a lack of funding for transit for decades, and that Stephen Harper has said that he will not spend a single more dollar on transit in the first 2 years of his mandate. There are mayors across the country, as I've said before, who are so frustrated with the system of trying to get funding for their communities. The Liberal plan would have you compete with other communities, whereas the NDP plan would be available to every municipality that offers transit to its citizens, which would obviously include the Durham region.
Thank you. Dr. Carrie.
Thank you, Terry. Our government is actually committed to investing a record amount of money in infrastructure, $75 billion over 10 years. This is something that municipalities have been asking for, and under many years of neglect by previous governments, we put our money on the table and we're committed to it. If you look at ourselves here locally in Oshawa, like I'm very proud to be the Member of Parliament that has brought record federal investment through partnerships with our province. If you just look around, you look at the 400 series highways, if you look at our investments in our local port, our airport, our rail systems, these are things that we've invested in, and these are like the catalysts. For many years, as I said back in 2004, people thought we'd be the next Flint, Michigan. We were ignored by previous governments. Just look around at Oshawa and look around at Durham Region. We're the place to be, and this is what's attracting new businesses and record amount of builds into our region for economic growth and new construction jobs.
Thank you. Tito-Dante.
Well, first of all, I can't believe that Mr. Carrie would say what he just said about how, he's provided for all this growth in Oshawa with a straight face, because I know there's a former colleague of mine, Nancy Diamond, she's in the crowd, and there's a number of others, Mr. Neal's here, and I don't remember you being at any of the meetings that had decision-making on the basis of trying to build infrastructure in our community that essentially provided us what we've got here. And as a former councillor, I have to say that we had to fight tong and hammer to try to get you to the table on anything, especially the waterfront. Now, when it comes to transportation and trying to get our goods and services to market, the Liberal Party has a very realistic plan. And that is a budget that provides for $21 billion in order to provide social infrastructure, transit, and the means to be able to motivate our economy and position us again, restore our position here in Oshawa as economic leaders. We are not going to do that with a plan from the NDP who are cutting and essentially talking about growth and surplus at the same time. That's not possible. And we're not going to do it with more of the same from the Conservatives.
Thank you, Tito. Why, each was either shaking their head or nodding their heads. It's like listening to the CKDO morning show. You want more, but there's just not enough time for it all. Yeah, sure. We get to go closing remarks at 2 minutes each, and we'll start off with Mr. Dempsey. You get to go first.
Well, all right. So I guess I should thank everybody in attendance here. I forgot to do that in my opening remarks. I apologize. I appreciate the opportunity to come here. I appreciate all of the media for preparing the questions and all the attendees for coming to listen to us up here. Maybe I'll end with something that I've said a few times here, is that no matter who sits at this table and no matter who ends up elected on October 19th, you can't rely solely on your local representatives to do all the dirty work for you. You have to go out there into your community. You have to network with your friends and your family, and you have to start trying to collectively, as not only a country but as a community, as Oshawa, we have to come together and we have to start figuring out on our own how we're going to deal with some of these huge issues that we really haven't been dealing with on the national level or even on the provincial level. A lot of it's all hot air and talk, and there's a lot of people out there that are in some dire straits, and coming up into the future we have a lot of challenges that we need to work on, and we need to start doing that together.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Mary Fowler.
I also just want to thank the organizers one more time for hosting the event. It's certainly, it's getting more heated every time we have one of these debates. It's been a lot of fun, certainly. So it's meaningful conversation, and I hope that you have found the NDP plan a positive one for what we can do to change our community for the better. We've released our fiscal framework. We have a responsible plan for investing in the social programs that so many people in our community rely on. We have a plan to invest in a national pharmacare program, which we didn't get to touch on. We want to immediately restore the age of retirement back down to 65. We'd like to bring back door-to-door mail service for those who've lost it. We want to cut the small business tax rate by 2 points, because we know that those are actually the companies that are creating jobs, 80% of them in our community. We want to help our young people to get well-paying jobs and help them stay and work and live right here in Oshawa by providing them with paid internship programs so that they can work while they learn. We want to create 1 million affordable and accessible $15 a day childcare spaces, because it makes economic sense, something else that we didn't get a chance to talk about tonight, unfortunately. The NDP has the positive plan that Oshawa has been waiting for. And with all due respect to my other colleagues sitting up here at the table, as Rosemary Barton even acknowledged on Power and Politics tonight, it's going to come down to a two-way race with the Conservatives and the NDP here in Oshawa. And the choice is going to be clear, either Stephen Harper's Conservatives or an NDP plan that has a positive future for Oshawa at heart. On October the 19th, I'm asking for your vote, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you here tonight, and I look forward to chatting with you once we're done.
Thank you. Dr. Carrie.
I too want to take this opportunity to again thank the organizers. I also want to thank my opponents and everyone for being here this evening. We have had a chance to listen to some of the different viewpoints, and I think everybody here could be in agreement. This is not the time for new risky taxes or risky economic schemes. This is time to look at the record. And as I said, I'm very proud to be the MP that did bring record federal investment to this community, to work quite closely with the City of Oshawa, with the former mayor, and I even had the opportunity to bring Mr. Neal and the current mayor and another city councillor to Ottawa to discuss some of these important things. So I have put in a lot of time because when we build a community, we have to do it together. And I remember when I first came to this community at age 15, my father was a career naval officer, and he always instilled in me that it's up to each and every one of us to put in that extra community service. And I'm just like you. We're all the same. We all feel that important draw and the necessity to do what we can to make our community, to make our province, to make our country a better place. And I'm passionate about our community. I'm passionate, all of us are passionate about the different things that need to move forward, but we need to make a sensible move forward to create jobs. Oshawa needs to be the place for opportunities. We've seen it with our investments in the university and colleges, the growth for our young people. We've never had this type of growth for young people and their educational system, and it's right here in Oshawa with UOIT, Durham College, Queen's University, Trios, Trent University. This is amazing growth in the last few years, and we have to continue that on. And I ask on October the 19th for the privilege to continue to be your member of Parliament. It's a privilege, but also a responsibility. On October 19th, vote Conservative, vote for Colin Carrie.
Thank you, Dr. Carrie. I did the math, Tito. You have 11 extra seconds thanks to your opponents here. Use it wisely.
That's great. I'll begin by acknowledging that there's another former colleague of mine here, Louise Parks, I forgot to mention. But I want to be humble in my appeal to the public. A lot of our debate tonight has also discussed whether, one poll said this and even now Rosemary Barton saying another. The people of Oshawa should decide who the representative is. And that's what they've always done. But it's been decades since someone from here, from Oshawa, one of us, has represented us in Parliament. And I think it's time that we get our voice back in Ottawa as opposed to having Ottawa's voice to Oshawa. I think you have a representative in me and a leader in Mr. Trudeau that care, not only for our local economy and the people, but also for the future of our country and for the future of our children. I'm a father of two. I'm a former councillor, someone who bears the scars of having represented the community, and even before that, having served the community in different capacities. I love Oshawa. Oshawa is my home, and you're not going to find anyone that's more passionate, more progressive, and more positive about Oshawa than I am. And I assure you, if you're reading the polls and you take a look at the national polls, and especially those in Ontario, we have an opportunity not only to restore Oshawa as a leader in this country, but our country on the global stage. And it begins with representatives like myself working in the government party with Mr. Trudeau and essentially putting us back on the map. We need your support. Oshawa needs your support. And on October 19th, I need your vote. I need to restore Oshawa's voice in Ottawa because it's been missing for a decade. And we need to get Oshawa back working and the middle class in Canada back on top. That's my priority. We have a budget that's realistic. Unlike the NDP's budget, who talks a big game about how we're going to do a ton of stuff, the numbers don't work. It's been called Swiss cheese by the Parliamentary Budget Secretary, Kevin Page. And the Conservatives are offering more of the same. If you want a better country, a better Oshawa, vote Liberal.
He didn't use up the whole 11 seconds, but pretty close. Almost.
And thank everyone.
Thank you all. You know what? We're not battling a Blue Jays game or an Oshawa Generals game, and I know most of you want to get to bed by 9, so you can catch most of the morning show on CKDO tomorrow morning at 107.7 at 1580 a.m. But I'm going to let Dave Andrews and the Rotary Club wrap it up.
Thanks, Terry. Well, the Rotary Club of Oshawa-Parkwood wants to say thank you. Thank you to the candidates. Thank you to the media. Thank you to our moderator and timer. Thank you to our host, the Oshawa Golf Club. And most of all, to you, the audience. We hope that we have helped you make that most important decision you're going to make on October 19. Thank you all for coming tonight. Please join us in the lounge right next door. The bar is open, and you'll get a chance to meet and greet the candidates. Thank you very much.
Thank you.